yes, thank you for taking time out of your day. Obviously, we're here to talk about your latest film, Fast Charlie. How did you get involved with this project? When was it? When was the script sort of brought to you?
Um, it was brought to me as a novel by Victor Gisela first, a novel whose story was set in Central Florida, in Orlando, and then in Miami. And I said, well, if we can get Richard Wenk to write the script, uh, I'm in. But also, I'd love to reset this story in New Orleans, my favorite shooting location in the United States, in fact, in the world. So the producer was able to get Richard, and he wrote for New Orleans and Biloxi, which is just an hour out of New Orleans in Mississippi. And so that's how I got involved.
And obviously, you mentioned New Orleans there. It's a place where you've made a few films. Other than the obvious sort of like budget benefits of filming there, what is it about New Orleans that you enjoy filming in so much?
Well, it's a great cruise, great collection of actors there. And it's such a creative city that just seeps into you when you're filming. You wake up and you feel like you've got a million ideas. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but the environment is very conducive to creativity.
And again, you mentioned this is based on a book originally on gun monkeys. Um, Sort of doing some research. I think in the book there's quite a heavy focus on the relationship, specifically sort of like the more sexual side of the relationship. But in the film, their bond is sort of more cerebral. Why did you decide to change it in this way, and why was it important to you that that change was made?
Well, the ribald nature of Victor Gisela's original novel seemed a little bit out of date. It seemed a little bit like a male fantasy. Uh, and in today's world, it's not good to have male fantasies. You've got to spread it around. But we also felt that particularly when we were casting, we felt that if we have to cast someone who's that much younger than Pierce, then it's better that we don't go into a full-on physical relationship, but we take it slowly and let the audience imagine what might happen after the movie is over. And therefore, we can't be accused of arranging, a hookup that's highly inappropriate in terms of age difference.
Which is refreshing because obviously that is what a lot of other films do. They don't shy away from that. They do go there. So it's quite nice to see a film that kind of it still has that relationship sort of like marinating, but it doesn't feel the need to sort of cross that line.
It also felt like reading the original characters that Victor Gisela created, that this woman, Marcie, the taxidermist, was previously married to a small-time gangster, and the last thing she wants to do is to get, into bed or anywhere near anyone in that profession. She's running away from that. Clearly, she's living in this stilt house out beside the water, no neighbors around her, not near her anyway. And so it just felt not only inappropriate, but just crazy behavior that she would, as in the original, jump straight into bed with the first gangster that knocks on the door.
And I think throughout your career, you've made a lot of films kind of within the action genre. What is it about this genre that excites you and makes you sort of keep coming back and telling stories within that framework?
Well, would I call this an action film? I think it's as much a character-based investigation as it is action. Um, I don't know. I guess it's from playing as a kid, where one of my favorite adventures was to create a sideshow for all my friends. I created many ghost trains. I imagined joining the circus so many times, so I guess I'm a bit of a showman, uh, attracted to creating thrills for an audience. The thrills that I felt as a kid going to the circus that came to our small outback town in Australia. So yeah, no apologies. Yes, I'm a ringmaster.
I think obviously we're talking the day after the Oscars. A lot of films. I'm getting Fast Charlie was the same. There are stunt people. I think sometimes people don't realize how involved stunt people are, even in like a straight drama. Something as simple as crossing the road. You need to have a coordinator there and stuff. Do you think the Academy are ever going to like properly acknowledge this craft, because it's such an important integral part of
You're
films?
talking about stunt people.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I believe there's a move afoot to have an Academy Award section for stunts. I seem to have remembered that coming across my inbox sometime over the last few months. Certainly last night at the academies, or this year at the academies, we saw, a homage to all the stunt performers, and I think that's entirely appropriate. We also saw at this year's Academy Awards homage to the drivers, the grips, the electrics, all the people that keep us filming. I thought that was great too.
Yeah, definitely. It was a really nice way to sort of like open the ceremony to sort of acknowledge these people, because obviously, with all the strikes and stuff that happened last year, they weren't necessarily striking, but they were standing in solidarity with those that were. And it was really nice to sort of see the thanks, given back to them.
And as a director who does do action scenes, I must admit that my worst nightmare is that someone would be injured on my watch. And no one has been. Well, one guy fell the wrong way back on Deadpool, falling off a mast, sort of had an ear injury, but recovered easily. And I guess another time, a helicopter went down inside a volcano while they were filming second unit footage for me. So that could have been tragic,
Yeah.
but all handled by stunt people. And so no one got damaged. But you wake up in the middle of the night from a nightmare that someone was severely injured or lost their lives. You know, it's an action director's worst nightmare that
Yeah,
would happen.
I can imagine. Well, in this, in the lead role here, you've got Pierce Brosnan, who was obviously James Bond. He's sort of very well versed in this kind of world. What was it about him, other than him potentially being sort of like a safe pair of hands to handle the more actiony aspects of the thing? What was it about him that made him right for the character?
Well, the character he plays is a man with a long history, and Pierce brings a long history to this part. No matter how much we try and divest ourselves of memories of an actor in former films, we can't. But all of the memories we have of Pierce play in to us enjoying him as Charlie Swift in this film. Um, his debonair quality, his handling of stunts and guns, his acidic humor. We all love him for all those qualities, as well as the way he handles straight drama. And here he reproduces it all for us again. So, he brought a lot of baggage, but I think most of it was good.
Yeah, definitely. And sort of looking back, through your career, you've worked with like so many. So there's actors, and then there's kind of like there's movie stars, and sort of looking through your career, you've worked with Angelina Jolie a couple of times, Denzel Washington, Sharon Stone, Pierce. What is the difference between working with a movie star as opposed to sort of an actor? Is there a difference?
There is a difference with the movie star. you've got to be constantly aware of what you do, what you say, how you say it, because you're very dependent on that star. In a way, you're working with them, and in a way, you're working for them. You've got to protect them, protect their image, protect their audience, protect their self-worth. So it's a delicate operation with a movie star. Not that it's not delicate with a straightforward actor, but there's a different, there's a different set of responsibilities with a star. You got to handle the star.
And after, all these years of making movies, do you ever get nervous before you start a project? Is that something that you still feel?
Yeah, I'm always nervous. I always wake up in the middle of the night thinking that I, go to the set and can't think of what to do. That's a fear that I've had since before I started making features, and still 50 years later, that still worries me. So I guess that's a good fear,
Yeah.
because it makes you start thinking, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? How am I going to shoot that scene, and so on.
Yeah, I think it's always kind of good to have that rather than, potentially becoming a bit complacent and then, I think that's when things start to go wrong.
Oh no, I could never become complacent because, unlike you Brits, I grew up with no Australian film industry. There was no such thing as a film director when I was growing up, not in Australia. They were over in London or in Los Angeles, but certainly not in Sydney, certainly not in the outback of Australia. So, it's all been a gift and a privilege.
And how do you think that the Australian industry has changed over the years? Because I think, there are, there's a lot of sort of Australian directors that are coming out. I mean, last year Talk to Me was, one of the biggest horror films. And that came from Australia. Do you think there is a shift now in the industry?
Well, no, it's a shift that's been going on since 1968, when the Australian government decided to kickstart a film industry. So, arguably there was just as much activity back in the 70s as there is today. But yes, we produced some cinematic marvels. Jane Campion is one of them, although we have to share her with New Zealand. And then there's the Raka Raka, the two brothers who made the film you mentioned. Peter Weir, George Miller, Baz Luhrmann. I mean, the list goes on and on. But it's a list that's formed over the last 45 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's great talent. I mean, Australia especially, you guys can do horror, but I guess that's because you live in a country where everything wants to kill you. So
Well, that is true. Even when you go to the bathroom, you're liable to get bitten on the behind by a red-black spider. Oh my God, and you go down so fast from that red-black. But the snakes are the worst, I think. No, the crocodiles. When we're growing up in Australia, we get taught not how to hide under a desk if there's an atomic bomb attack, but rather how to free ourselves from the claws of a crocodile. Do you want me to tell you how to do it?
yeah, I mean, I'm never going to Australia, but I might as well know.
Well, you might as well know, because it's usually Brits or Americans who get caught. You see, when the crocodile gets hold of you, the first thing he or she is going to do is try and turn you to the side. Now, if you try and fight that turn, you're gone, because that's what they want. They want to break your spine. So you go with the turn, then you've got to reach down and punch them in a certain part of their body, and their mouth is liable to snap open. And then when you're getting away from a crocodile, do not make the mistake of going in a straight line, because they follow scent and they'll catch you very easily. You've got to zigzag. Anyway, we all know that when we're growing up in Australia. But now, if you come to Australia for one of your holidays, you're going to know how to get out of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I'm deathly phobic of spiders, so I don't think I'd fare too well over there. It's good knowledge to have. I can pass that knowledge on to friends. Um, I guess sort of, going, coming back to Fast Charlie, the films, coming out in the UK. Why do you hope that people take a chance on this film? Because it's it's got elements of action, but it's also got drama. There's kind of a romance to it. What are you hoping that the audience, experience when they sit down with this film?
I hope they'll look at the film and they'll say, here's a film from this guy who made Dead Calm, Clear and Present Danger, Patriot Games, The Bone Collector, and so on, and The Quiet American, all straight dramas and action films, but suddenly he's tickling my funny bone and I'm laughing and having fun. I think it's a film to escape life into, you know, watch this story and don't take it too seriously, but just seriously enough. And that's what I was trying to do, was to walk a tightrope between allowing the audience to have fun and say, oh, this is all make-believe, and yet believing it enough that they care about the characters.
Yeah, I think it's great fun. I think it's gonna to its audience, it's gonna play really well. So I wish you best of luck with the release, and thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you. And can we just say goodbye to the cat?